EGM Network.
Hi, welcome to Silver Linings. I am one of your hosts. You know me as Janean Barrows. My counter host, Raul Perez, he is playing hooky today, but for good reason. He's got good jobs to do in the court structure, and he's working for his clients hard. And so I am solo, but I am never alone. And in the studio today, joining me is Mr. Colby Bechtold, and he is the proud founder and purveyor of Hummingbird Home Care here in Treasure Coast, born here, right here in Vero Beach, right?
Yes.
Oh, we are excited. We love when a new company starts here and begins spreading its wings, figuratively, literally.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Exactly.
Thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk a little bit today.
Indeed. So we were talking a little bit before we clicked these cameras on, and we were talking about how I am so impressed by Hummingbird. We have a ton of companies that provide personal services all across our Treasure Coast, and being the superhighway of senior citizens on the Treasure Coast, it makes sense. And it's important to be able to differentiate amongst companies and understand what's going to be the right fit for you, because there is a right fit for everybody. And your company is unique in its design and how it came to be and how it was born here in Vero Beach. Did I say that again and again and again? I always think that's really cool. I like local companies when they grow. And what you're doing for your client base and for your fellow community members that come on and become part of your team, right? So can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how Hummingbird came to be? Because it's a fairly new company, right?
Yeah, we opened in 2023. I think I'm a registered nurse, and I was in the ER and the ICU and spent many years.
That's intense work.
Yeah, it was a lot, but I really enjoyed my time in the hospital, and I miss it sometimes. But around the end of COVID, when COVID was kind of calming down, and I noticed my grandparents were aging, and they both had dementia, Alzheimer's, and we were kind of, as a nurse, I think I jokingly say, us nurses know everything, but
my mother's one of them.
Exactly.
You might be right.
But I came into this, I said, I'm a nurse. I can handle this, and I kind of came into home care thinking, I know healthcare because I worked in the hospital for however many years, since 2007 is when I started in the hospital.
Oh, wow.
And
seasoned for sure.
Yeah. So, and it was a completely different world. I literally quickly learned that I knew nothing about home care. I knew nothing about, how senior care worked outside of a facility. So it was a huge learning curve for me. And especially in the middle of COVID, I'm, a single father raising a son, it was a huge learning curve. And so I quickly realized that the resources that were available at the time were not meeting my expectations or a lot of the expectations of the community. And so I remember it was Christmas night. My mom and I were talking, like, what are we going to do? We were taking care of my grandparents. We both work full time, So I said, you know what? I think this is my sign from the universe to, use my knowledge that I've gained through taking care of my grandparents and what I've learned in the hospitals to kind of mesh together, and let's form something to give the community what they need.
Knowledge is power.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. So, so that's where it was founded from, is really like taking, the things that I've learned in the ICU, which you can apply anywhere, processes and safety, the quick reaction times of an ER, all these things, you kind of mesh them together.
Documentation, sharing information.
If you didn't document it, you didn't do it.
Oh, I know.
So, I think it was important to mesh that together and form it. And we quickly formed Hummingbird and spent almost 9 months forming all the policies and the procedures and the way we wanted to present ourselves to the community, and not just kind of go out on a whim, kind of go out and present ourselves as the new standard and raise the bar of the expectations of the community and of ourselves.
And that's drastically different than just hanging up a shingle, isn't it?
Yes. Majorly different.
Yeah.
And I still, to this day, I don't know everything, and I'm learning every day, but what we have learned quickly is if you prioritize your quality and prioritize the patients, then in the end, everything else works out. And I think that's where the community has quickly realized why we're the number one on the Treasure Coast right now.
Oh, wow. That's nice. Something to definitely to say out loud and bright and loud.
Yes, exactly. We shout it from the rooftops if we can. But I'm very proud of our team and what we've built. I definitely didn't do it alone. We have, I think right now we have 12 people in my administrative team that work together to provide the high quality care. So
there's a lot of checks and balances involved in that specific industry without regard of setting the bar higher. So I can imagine that the 12 individuals you have pulled into your team are pretty busy.
Yes, they're fantastically busy, which is wonderful. We grow and grow every day, both as a company, as individuals. So I think it's important to constantly. I remember in the past, people have used the phrase of moving the goalpost as a negative, and I always feel like that's a positive, because once you are meeting a goalpost, it's time to move it forward and better yourself even more.
I like that. No stagnancy there at Hummingbird.
Right, always growing.
Is there a reason that the company is named Hummingbird?
So my grandmother, when she was getting more advanced into her Alzheimer's, she's always enjoyed birds, and she's from North Carolina and has that North Carolina twang, but she always enjoyed her birds, and her favorite birds were hummingbirds and cardinals. So I decided to name the company Hummingbird after my grandmother.
Nice.
Yep. And then the colors of the company come from my grandparents' favorite colors, yellow and purple. I was
going to ask about the color matching, because it's very distinct, and you carry that through in all of your branding, as well as in your team's appearance and all of your, right on down to the lanyards that hold your badges for your employees. So that's nice to see how you implemented all kinds of aspects from their experience and yours as a family member. Being a family member of somebody who's in need of private care services has already elicited a lot of conversation, usually around a dinner table amongst family members, talking about what's going to be best for a specific person in the family, or a loved one or a cared one that you are coordinating together to take care of. And those are deep, raw conversations, and they involve a lot of emotions. And people who are seeking out personal care have a lot of viable expectations, and expectations that will never be attained. So you enter into families when they seem to be at the height of emotional chaos. What does that look like in reference to the type of care your client families are looking for?
Well, I mean, it's a great analogy, because that's exactly what the ER was. In the ER, we're meeting people on sometimes the worst day of their lives.
Yeah.
And in home care, we're meeting people on sometimes the worst day of their lives. So stresses are high, anxieties are high. I've lived alone for 50 years, and now you want me to have somebody in my home. It can be stressful. So what I've realized very quickly is setting the expectations from the beginning and saying, this is what we can do, this is what we cannot do, this is why, and explaining to people, because, I think that was one thing that I lacked in the beginning with my grandparents was, I'm a why. Like, why are we doing this? What's next? Tell me, talk to me, give me information. And I never received it. And I think now when we go out and we're signing up a new patient and we're saying, this is why we're doing it this way, and this is what to expect. We have sometimes we run into scheduling problems where somebody wants a specific time, and we have to explain to them the rationales behind things, and why the caregiver may not always be available at that time, and why we're doing things on our side and what the expectations are. And it really clears the air between, and it establishes trust. Say, I'm explaining to you not only why I can't do it, but why I can't do it, or what to expect. And so that they're not just lost in the dark and maybe having a negative experience because their expectations were somewhere that maybe were unattainable. And
sometimes we've met people that wanted 24/7 care by the same person, which somebody has to sleep. So
yeah, exactly.
it has to be talked through and worked through in a manner that's comfortable for all parties. I love that. When private care is involved, that could be bathing, It simply is just assisting 3 times or 4 times a week with bathing. It could be transportation to physicians' appointments. It could be bed sitting. It could be during palliative care. It could be somebody to help read the newspaper because you have macular degeneration, but you read the New York Post every day. And if somebody just did that for you, it could be someone who takes you to bridge or the country club or out to the movies once a week. It's about adding quality of life while ensuring safety. And usually in due time, organically, most of our households have a need for that. So I want to learn a little bit more about how you're growing and what programs you have, but I have to take a small break. So if you don't mind, hold your thoughts, and we're going to come right back in just a moment.
Finding the right home loan should feel like the last piece of a puzzle. Here in Vero, one name stands out for experience you can trust. Gina Melton at Riverside Mortgage Solutions.
With over 16 years of local expertise, I'm not just a loan originator, I'm your neighbor. Don't settle for an out-of-town lender. Talk to me at 772-205-8880. Call me, Gina Melton, with Riverside Mortgage Solutions.
Riverside Mortgage Solutions is an equal housing lender. NMLS 1712816 and NMLS 87788.
At lunchtime, enjoy a southern home-cooked meal paired with the best sweet tea in town at Marsh Landing. You'll love our daily lunch specials like chicken and dumplings every Thursday, or one of our juicy half-pound burgers. Experience old Florida cuisine at Marsh Landing in Fellsmere.
Tired of pool chores draining your weekend? Deja Blue Pool Service provides the expert skimming and chemical balancing you need for a crystal clear paradise. For Vero's most reliable professional care, Google Deja Blue Pool Service. Keep it clean, keep it blue.
Welcome to Riverside Theater's Comedy Zone, where the comedy is wild, untamed, and downright hilarious. Hit the zone this Friday and Saturday night at 6:30 and 8:30 for the Treasure Coast's best live stand-up comedy show, featuring nationally recognized comedians with cabaret-style seating and food and drink table service. Buy tickets at riversidetheater.com and get ready for a night of non-stop laughs.
Hi, we're back. I am always grateful for our commercial sponsors, but I'm even more grateful for our show sponsors. And I just want to give a quick shout out to the team at Dill Evans and Rotoback in Sebastian, Florida. They are an amazing legal team serving up senior law and real estate law and trust law here on the Treasure Coast for over 30 years. I assure you, if you have any need, reach out to them and their team. They will consult with you, and I also have no doubt that they'll treat you like family, like they do me. So back from commercial, thank you for holding your breath for a moment, Colby. And we were starting to have a conversation about growth. You know, Hummingbird is expanding its wings, and I jested about it earlier, but the reality is you are. So what are your goals with the company here in this next 5-year plan, per se?
Yeah, so Hummingbird is growing, and we just opened a second location in Stuart, which is awesome. And
that's exciting.
A few more gray hairs have popped up on my chin because of it.
But they consider that to be a nice attribute these days. Don't worry about it.
But long-term goals, we want to grow in a way where we never lose touch with our core values. We want to maintain that personable relationship with our clients. So our long-term goals are ever changing. Would I love to help more and more people? Yes, but I never want to get to the point where it's not manageable in the sense of losing those relationships, with people. So eventually we probably will hit a growth maximum for what I would like to do with the company. But we are nowhere near that at this time, which is great. But yeah, we every day we're looking at new ways to help more families partner with new agencies like the VA. We give no cost home care to veterans in the community.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so it's fantastic. But we're able to help more and more people.
Oh, I love that. That's wild and beautiful all at the same time. I like that. So when you were in the ER, you saw something that is a common behavior. We often refer to them in mind, frequent flyers, people who repeatedly go to the ER. I have had meetings with some of our emergency management people here in Indian River County, and we have a wild number of individuals who consistently call for emergency services and go to the emergency room to be assessed and determined if this is a clinical emergency need, a psychological need. Sometimes they're just simply really, really lonely or scared and fearful of mortality, and they're overwhelmed, and that lands them in the ER. But that's a tremendous weight on resources within our community and in our hospitals. What does that look like from the perspective of somebody inside the clinical environment of a hospital? And then how does that correlate to some of the necessities that are needed in the community that are not being fulfilled, and recently some of the options that might be fulfilling them?
Yeah. So, I mean, frequent flyers, when from the inside of the hospital, it was always frustrating. And it was frustrating for the sense of not only you don't want to see these people coming back, because working in a hospital, in an ER, that was one of the jobs where you did not want repeat customers, because obviously it's like, I don't want people to be sick. So, so it was really frustrating to see these people consistently coming back because of lack of support in the community or whatever the rationale was. But before I got out of the facility, I never really fully understood, why is this person looping back to us?
You're just thinking they really like that ride.
Right. Yeah. They really like to see the, the view and the ambulances are going to the hospital, but no, it was really, I could see there was a lack of support in many instances.
Mm-hmm.
So, huge shout out to Cleveland Clinic and their hospital to home program, because that's helped a lot with that step of supporting them beyond the discharge. I've worked at many hospitals in my career, and a lot of times it's you wheel them to the curb and you're done, and then beyond that, it was up to the patient or the patient's family to what's next, So Cleveland Clinic has taken the step of coming forward to say, okay, what's the next step of getting them home safely and helping that transition? Well, we thought from Hummingbird, I said, well, we need to meet that demand. So we have our own programs. We have 2 programs and a third rolling out this fall with our safety net program, which is wildly popular in the community because it, just as the name implies, it's a safety net around the person using technologies like I love to do in the ICU, because I'm a technological buff, so always trying to find some gadget or something. But we found that we formed this program and we said, how can we, the patients coming out of the facility, so what's the safest way to bring them home? And we formed what's called Nestbound Journey. Nestbound Journey is a de-escalation of care. So when you come out of the facility, you're used to having somebody around you 24/7. So when you come out of that facility, we come out as one of our nurses that assesses your care needs and says, okay, we need to de-escalate care over 24 hours or 48 or maybe a week. And we're going to de-escalate you to the care that you need, not always no care. Sometimes you may need somebody to still check in on you periodically, but bring you back to your baseline that's safe. Because I've noticed, in our independent research, we've noticed that a lot of falls happen in the first 24 to 48 hours from a discharge.
True.
So you go from all the support, people reminding you to use your walker, things like that, to all of a sudden there's no one there. And then you fall. And then what happens? You're back into the hospital. And every time you go into that hospital, you're there for a day, 2 days, a week, and then you have to start back at ground zero. So preventing that readmission is really important to us, because it keeps them safe, keeps them home, and that's what's important to us. So
I like that. So you are expanding down south, and you're going to be bringing and offering these many different programs to the community members across the Treasure Coast. How far south will that look like?
So currently our service area is all the way to West Palm Beach. Okay. So we do service the area, but as we grow in those areas, the need of having somebody nearby is important. So so right now, I know the Stewart area has really grown for our patient population. So it's grown to the point where we have now 2 full-time staff that work in that area as care coordinators, supporting those patients and doing what we do here in Vero, but being closer to them. So if you do call, we always say we have a 1-hour response time. So even, last night I got a call from the ER, middle of the night, I'm out there signing up a patient, within 20 minutes. That's really important for not only us to show that we're there for our patients, but also for the patients to feel like Hummingbird is just a call away. Like if I have a question, even if it's nothing to do with home care, I can call Hummingbird and they'll at least lead me in the right direction. So being that trusted resource in the community is very important to me. So we want that same, support in Stewart as well.
I think the community is going to love it. So you're expanding. You started in the last 3 years here on the Treasure Coast here in Vero, born out of necessity and insight. As you're growing south, so are your programs. You mentioned the what did you call it? The
Nestbound Journey.
Nestbound Journey, which essentially gets you from an acute environment back home, situated, groceries in the house, oversighting your needs. You now have a program called the Safety Net, and Safety Net is like having a third clinical party member active in your home environment should you need to call out to them for assistance. Is that right?
Right. Yeah, it uses audio cues, and it can even sense early signs of UTIs. It can sense changes in the way somebody walks, and there's a whole program built around that where we're in communication with your doctors and your family to make sure that we're being proactive with care instead of reactive.
So we can bring them home with the program that's designed to get you out of acute. You can oversight for the safety of the individual to keep them home while they continue to grow stronger and become more autonomous and independent, if that's a potential possibility. And then, of course, life it doesn't end there, right? So sometimes you have this next step that might be party to some of the families that might need some palliative assistance. Is that right?
That's right. And we have a program coming out this fall. It's our palliative care program where we support people who are in that process. We have partnered with a lot of people in the community to support this process in life. And there's a huge need for it in the area, especially in the Stewart and Vero Beach area. So being there to support these people during that time is something that the need is definitely being asked. So Hummingbird is stepping up to meet that need.
Nice. And I know it's true because I once upon a time worked in the home care industry as well. And one of the things we often got calls about was, we're looking to start a hospice care. And they thought that meant that they would have 24/7 nursing in their home environment during that process, and encouraging them to step out to get that service, because those final moments with somebody are very important. And yes, it's honorable to be the caregiver, but if possible, to remain in the role that you and your loved one are most naturally in. It allows that. So it's a very compassionate, active thing to do to bring into your home environment at the palliative level as well, and very needed. So because there are parameters, some things that we can do and can't do in different industries, as you alluded to, even when you meet families. And the same goes with industries like hospice and the limitations of where they are and where a third party might be able to provide a gap coverage for families while they're going through those things. So I love that. I love that you've thought ahead, that you're looking to fill that gap, because it is a real need and a real necessity in many households every day. And it allows them to remain home in their safe space where that they can continue to write out their remaining story. So I think that's wonderful. If you wanted to educate somebody on how to reach out to you, what is the best phone number and email to reach out to Hummingbird and yourself?
Sure. So 772-202-2213. It's our main number for all areas of Hummingbird. So you can just call and speak 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I mean, if you have
365 days a year, right?
Even at Christmas Eve, I've gone out and signed up people because, healthcare unfortunately never stops.
Correct.
You always have a need, so we're always here for you. So,
yeah. Emergencies are not expected.
Yeah,
And they're
exactly.
definitely not between 9 and 5, Monday through Friday.
Exactly.
Thank you so much, Colby, for joining me and sharing about Hummingbird. We appreciate all the hard work you do in our
Thank you for having
community.
me.
Thank you. We'll see you next week.